Hello, everyone. I'm really glad and happy to be here among you. And I want to thank this beautiful human being, Mr. Hussam, for inviting me over. And I'm really blessed and really honored to be here today. So. I've been asked to give a quick introduction about psychology to you guys, so I'll be really happy to answer to every question you have right after the presentation. And please, if you're interested in the field, I'll be more than glad to talk to you in person afterwards. That's it. Okay. Can we start? Okay, thank you. So the basic three questions that I'm about to try to answer to during this session is, what is psychology? What does a psychologist do? How does he work? What's psychotherapy? So I think that those are the bases that you guys need for today. But of course, if there's any specific question, I'll be happy to provide the answers. Okay, so this is going to be academic for you guys. Just I'll try to make it keep it simple. So according to Google and whatever academic text we have, psychology is the science dealing with mental phenomena and processes. It means that it studies every emotion, way we perceive the world, the intelligence, the consciousness. We'll talk about this and we'll try to understand what are the psychological concepts I think you will need to know about today. And the relationship between thoughts, cognitions, and behaviors. So it's basically just the study of the mind, of how we all react to environments, how we end up having emotions, and starting from those emotions, how we make decisions about our daily life and our daily behaviors. Thank you. So I think this will interest you. Maybe this slide is kind of interesting for you as young teenagers and future adults. When do we need to go to therapy? So yeah, when the talks to friends and family doesn't help anymore, because friends could be really caring and willing to help, and family also. But sometimes we don't really need advices or people to judge us. So we start to feel that this help is a little helpless at the end of all, and it doesn't help as much as it could hurt sometime also, because what stands for someone would not be okay for some other person. Okay, second reason why we could go to therapies if we have hard time speaking in public. So I think that's the main issue you're dealing with in this club. If you have any anxiety, as I have now, and if you have the shy profile personality, so yes, it could be helpful to see either a coach or a psychologist to help you have some methods to overpass what we call social anxiety. If I'm in pain because of my family issues or personal or love issues or whatever, and I don't feel understood. So this is what I was talking about. It really, sometimes we can be surrounded with the right people and still it wouldn't be enough for us to feel understood or to overpass whatever problem we have with our emotions or with our behavior. If I no longer feel joy and it's lasting for over a month, so this is a main criteria of depression, and teenagers are really concerned with this phenomenon. It's really we know that neurologists has proved that as soon as we have puberty, dopamine, which is a hormone of happiness and activity, really goes down with teenagehood. So depression is a main flaw in the whole process of teenagehood. if my fears are affecting my everyday life. So we're all allowed to be scared of things. It could be phobias, it could be just usual everyday fears. But whenever it starts to affect my life at school or at home or with my friends, and I see my production going down, or my depression leading me to aggressiveness, for example. So because fear has a direct link with aggressiveness. So whenever we cannot manage fear, we could tend to be more and more aggressive. So yes, we're going to need a therapy for that. If I have been through traumatic events, and I can't overpass the trauma on my own. What is a trauma? Is really our response, our body and emotional response to some unusual events. Something that we're not supposed to live, that our brain is not prepared to deal with. So it could be an emotional heartbreak, could be a car accident, it could be anything that is sudden and does affect us with symptoms like nightmares, keep seeing the same picture all over again, having huge anxiety and going to nervous breakdown or depression. Okay, so there are different types of psychology, where I'll just listed the most famous, but then there are other kind of psychology that we don't have here in Morocco. So the most famous one is the clinical psychology. Is really to be accompanying people who need psychological support for any reason. It could be in a clinic, it could be in a cabinet, it could be at school, whatever it is, but it's called clinical psychology. Cognitive psychology, we'll see what cognitive means. It's really what I'm specialized in. Cognitive and behavioral psychology is basically just dealing with the thoughts that are adapted to reality, that are negative thoughts that lead us to negative emotions, and we end up having toxic behaviors. So we'll talk about this later on. And developmental psychology is the psychologists that are specialized in the evolution of childhood, since the young childhood till teenagehood. So this and all its phases. It's called developmental psychology, and there's social psychology, which is different than sociology, because it's really psychology adapted to groups. It could concern the group therapies. If I think we already heard about that, all of us. It could concern just the psychology study of any social group within a company or any institution whatsoever. Thank you. Okay. How does a psychologist work? Well, I'm sure that my colleagues, if they see this slide, they'll be laughing, but I'll just try to keep it simple again. So a psychologist does not prescribe medicine, first of all. So yes, psychiatrist does prescribe medicine. A psychologist works with exercises, with active listening, and exercises in the at every therapy session. And we could also give exercises to do outside if the patient is okay with that, sure. Does not give advices, so that's the main difference between us and counselors. We never give advices, and I think that most of people think the opposite. We just help the patient figure out whatever options he has according to what he's going through, and then we just help him out, choosing the less damaging way, and we accompany him through the road. A psychologist never judges a patient, so we all know that we try as friends not to do that, but it's very hard to remain neutral when there are interests involved, when we have too much empathy, or when we can no longer have a scientific thinking. Okay, so main method is the active listening. What is that? Is to be able to listen and be having feedbacks. In psychology, in psychotherapy, we have a lot of feedbacks. In classical psychoanalysis, there are not as much feedbacks as in CBT. We'll see about that. So really need to be active in the listening. And whereas psychoanalysts just say, well, basically, they'll hate me for that. They just get, they repeat the last of the sentence you just said with a question mark. So like, this really different from our method, but yes, the listening needs to be active. It's neutral, as we said, so no emotions from the psychotherapist is allowed. It's benevolent, meaning bienveillant. So we're supposed to help people get better. And if we can't do that, we reorient to colleagues, or we stop the sessions. If we see that we don't have the abilities with a case, we just stop the session. But as in medicine, the worst case scenario is to add damages to the psychological state of a patient. Being empathic, not over-empathic. Empathic means just being able to be in the patient's shoes without reflecting its emotion. We all have different emotions, even if we live the exact same situation. We never have the same emotions exactly. It changes from a person to another, which is normal, because everyone has a print. Everyone has neurological prints and emotions. Even fear is not the same for me as for you, for example. It has different expressions, and as much expressions as there are people. Helps person understand reasons of thoughts and behaviors. We need to understand before we heal. If we don't know why we're scared, we could give all the exercises possible. It could be repeated again. It could happen again, and it could get even worse if you don't identify the real reasons why it first happened to you. I think that's it. Yeah, help reduce and relieve emotional and psychological suffering. Yes, so that's what we do. Thank you. Next slide, please. Okay, so I just tried to list up a few concepts. I don't know if this would be boring to you guys. Just tell me as we go. Okay. Okay, so what is psychoanalysis? La psychanalyse. So it's Sigmund Freud who launched the concept of psychoanalysis. It's the treatment of someone who has mental problems by asking them about their feelings and their pasts, especially young childhood, to try to discover what may be causing their condition. But mainly, it works with we work with those concepts: consciousness, subconsciousness, unconsciousness. And those things are showed here, and I don't know if you can see the image. The conscious mind is above like 5 to 10% the presentation of our brain, of its abilities and whatever we use of it. We all know that even orcas are the only one who use approximately 10% of their brain. We only use 5% of it. And so same for consciousness. It means the part of the brain that makes us realize and be aware of what we're living and we're feeling at every second. And so conscious mind contains all of the thoughts, memories, feelings, memories that we are aware of, and wishes of which we are aware at any given moment. Subconscious, that's the middle part. That's pre-conscious, also called pre-conscious or subconscious. It means memories that exist only at the subconscious level. Our subconscious mind registers things which our conscious mind is not aware of. So it's just something that in therapy we can access to without needing hypnosis, whereas hypnosis deals with the really unconscious part. So unconscious contains contents that are unacceptable or unpleasant or immoral, mostly sexual and destructive instincts. such as feelings of pain, anxiety, or conflict. So this part we need hypnosis to access to. And there's right brain, left brain, which we would be specifying in that slide. This is a very common concept that is more and more, not discredited in neurobiology, but it still works for a lot of our studies. So most of us are either left-brained or right-brained. So mostly it's really, those are the differences. So the left brain over here, it contains all what's mathematic, scientific, what is linear thinking, facts, sequencing tasks, sequencing informations. So all the nerd part of our brain, we all have one. And then there's, although I don't agree with the term nerd, but it's just really the logic scientific part of our intelligence. We all have one, no? And then we have the right parts. This is more linked to imagination, arts, music, rhythm, intuition, non-verbal cues. That's, well, most of people have both of those parts activated according to situations, but we all have a dominant. There's one form of job that really activates both of them at the same time, is architects. Architects have the creative skills, and also they need to have the mathematic and logic skills. What is a psychotherapy? Well, the definition, again, is academic. The treatment of behavior disorders, mental illnesses, or any other condition by psychological means, listening exercises and hypnosis. What does a psychotherapist do? Basically, is just a professional that assists people with various mental health conditions, such as stress, depression, anxiety, insomnia, addictions, bipolar disorder, negative behavior patterns, PTSD, post-traumatic syndrome disorder. Well, bipolar disorder has been written twice, sorry. Schizophrenia, or just relationship issues, and other debilitating feelings. So yes, psychotherapist is more than a psychologist, because, well, it's different studies, added studies that works with some technique that is called CBT, cognitive and behaviorist therapy. That's the difference between a psychotherapist and a psychologist. Next slide, please. Thank you. Yeah, so what is CBT? Cognitive and behavioral therapies are the most recent methods of therapy, and it's been developed since the 60s in US. It helps us identify unhealthy, negative beliefs and thoughts and behaviors that are consequent of those thoughts, and replace them with healthy, positive ones. So we believe that cognitions and ideas, perceptions of the world, the external world, is the first point, first step of whatever we're feeling and what defines us as a person. See, if you and I, for example, assist on a car crash and someone dies, I'll be like, maybe, could it wasn't me, and I'll just go dancing and having fun with my friends, whereas someone hypersensitive would be, will relive a trauma and go to his place and feel insecure about the external world and go to depression or nervous breakdown. So it's really, and those beliefs really depend on sometimes genetic status, on our education, on the free will and the way we dealt with our education, our personal experiences through life. So we only, in the therapy, we only work on whatever is what is approaching to free will. So yeah. Dialectical behavior therapy is the second part of the cognitive therapy. it's a part of CBT that teaches behavior skills. So we basically condition people differently from what they've been used to act around their in their lives. So we just really like Pavlov, you know, the dog test. I don't know if you talked about already heard about it. We tend to help the patient condition himself with new ideas and new behaviors. In a way that he'll be less offended, less suffering in reaction to a given situation. So yeah, skills to help you handle stress, manage your emotions, and improve your relationships with others. So cognition is really a mix of all those parts: human intelligence, language, thinking and problem-solving skills, memory, attention, and perception. Perception being the biggest part. Next slide, please. Okay. What jobs, I will end up with this. What job can I choose in psychology if you're inclined to this field? So you could be psychologists. We know now the difference between psychologist and a therapist. Therapist uses CBT, whereas psychologists use the clinical methods. Human resources psychologists, so you'll be basically working for companies and institutions to help hire, follow the careers and support whatever emotional distress is linked to everyday companies work. Art therapists, we use art therapy in CBT, and it's just an amazing tool. We use it a lot with children, but you can also use it with schizophrenic and bipolar disorders. Sports psychologists help them improve their performances and stay away from injuries, which needs a lot of concentration and what we call l'imagerie. So we tend to perfection the gesture, the move by hypnosis, and sometimes half-conscious hypnosis. And criminal psychologists, it's a field that is spreading in Morocco, thank God. So yeah, there's also military psychologists that is spread in Morocco. It's getting organized. Yeah, so for those who are fascinated with criminology, God knows we're a lot of those. I think that's it. Yes, thank you for your attention.